So, good morning and welcome to all of you. Thank you very much for coming to this inaugural session of the Discovering Buddhism program. Here, I think jointly offered by 3 centers in the Western U.S. So I am very happy and honored to have been asked to help with this course. So I thought first, since this course is going to be a 2-year program, hopefully we'll get to know each other in quite some detail over the next coming years and months. But I thought at the beginning here, it might be good just if we all went around and introduced ourselves. And from my side, I'm particularly interested in what your level of experience is with meditation and or studying Buddhist philosophy before. And then also I would ask you to maybe just share why you're doing this course. Okay, well, I'll also give a brief introduction because some people didn't come to the open house. Anyway, my name is Tenzin Namjong. So yeah, although I'm in India now, I was born in Hawaii. And let's see, I then went to university on the East Coast, studied philosophy. And at one point I thought I wanted to be a philosophy professor. But I was sort of less inspired the more I was into the Western philosophical academia. And so I left those aspirations behind. And actually, out of school, I worked in finance, of all things. And so I was working in New York and later in London, and then back in New York. And at that time, it was highly stressful. So I, on the encouragement of one of my coworkers, I started doing yoga, mainly as a stress relief. And through yoga, I got into meditation. And then at one point, I left my work and decided I needed to kind of reset my life. And so I went traveling, and I came out to Asia, and my intention was to sort of get more experience in the Eastern spiritual traditions. I too, Mary Ellen, was raised Catholic. But then I came out to Asia and spent some time just exploring the different traditions. I did stay at a Zen center in Japan. I spent time in Thailand, learning in the Theravadan tradition and Vipassana. And then I came to India, stayed at ashram, and then met His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, and went to his teaching in Dharamsala. And anyway, slowly but surely, my life just became more centered around Buddhism and Buddhist practice. And then also, like Mary Ellen, I, at the encouragement of my teacher, decided to study in depth. So I'm in the Geshe Studies program here at Sarah J. Monastic University. I'm now in the 15th year. So it's about a 20-year program. So still 5 more years to go. And anyway, I'm very happy to share what little knowledge and experience I have with others. One of the most inspiring things about being able to study is to see so many people interested in the same things that I'm learning about and training myself in. So yeah, thank you all for coming, and hopefully all of your aspirations we can fulfill. So I will just say, normally at the beginning of a kind of beginner course, there's this technique, I think, in Western psychology where they have you, ask one question, and then, you keep asking why, like, I think 6 times, and then you find the real sort of answer. So many of you said, oh, I joined this course because I want to, learn about Buddhism. But then the question is, why do you want to learn about Buddhism? And then, why that and why that? You keep going down. But I have a hypothesis for you. We don't have time to do all that inquiry individually, but I encourage all of you to do so with yourself in your own time. But one hypothesis I have is this fundamental starting point of Buddhism that His Holiness the Dalai Lama often emphasizes, and that is all of us living beings, we want to be happy, we want to be fulfilled, we want to be at peace, and we want to avoid suffering, right? So that is the real thing we're trying to learn, and the thing that we're trying to attain through all of this. So here now, when we are starting off this course, it's very important to have that as the motivation, right? We're trying to learn to increase our internal qualities and learn about the various techniques so that we can bring lasting and true happiness to ourselves. But then also, as that happens, you see, we'll also be in a position to share that with others and help them do the same thing. So that, in kind of layman's terms, is what this mind, some of you who've been studying for longer, that's what bodhichitta essentially is, right? We're trying to increase, develop our own qualities, and when we do so, we'll be able to help others do the same. So now, when we are starting this program, actually, it's a very auspicious day in the Buddhist calendar. It's actually Sakadawa Duchen, or the day where we celebrate 3 events in the Buddha's life: his birth, his enlightenment, and his passing away into parinirvana. So actually, when we scheduled this, we didn't quite realize it's a coincidence, but I think quite an auspicious one. So I thought also it would be good. Usually, and some of you were saying you've done some book learning before, but now with this course, part of the goal also is to introduce you into this sort of living tradition of how the great masters have sort of learned and studied in the past. And so one of these traditions that we're going to do is to recite some sort of prayers, you can say, or it's actually a homage to Shakyamuni Buddha. And so we're going to do some chanting now, or just maybe reading in English. And those of you, who maybe haven't done these kinds of things before, you might think it's always quite ritualistic. But the point is here, since we all want to gain happiness and avoid suffering, and we want to learn something, we are looking for someone who has attained those qualities that we want to attain, right? And so the Buddha is the one who has done exactly what we're trying to do. The Buddha is the one who reached the pinnacle of human potential and completely eliminate all suffering and completely develop all his good qualities in mind. And so because of that, we pay homage to him, not in the sense of, oh, the Buddha's up there, I'm down here, oh, I'm gonna, prostrate to the Buddha or offer flowers, and then the Buddha will come to like me, and then will give me enlightenment or something like this. no, not like that, but rather more as a kind of role model. And, through remembering the qualities that he attained, and then aspiring to develop those qualities within ourselves, then we look to him as a role model, an example, and therefore we offer praise. Okay? So anyway, Mary Ellen, why don't you do that sharing? And the other thing that's interesting, if you just sort of read a little bit mindfully of these words, it will express the qualities of the Buddha, and the qualities of the Dharma, his teaching, and the qualities of the Sangha, or the spiritual community. So anyway, yeah, the point always is that although we might do some recitations, it's not just merely mouthing the word like a parrot. Even a parrot can do that, but trying to reflect on the meaning of what we're reading and trying to generate some feeling inside. Okay. So we can recite out loud, yeah? To the founder, Bhagavan, Tathagata Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of beings to be subdued, teacher of gods and humans, to you, Buddha Bhagavan, glorious conqueror Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge. To the founder, Bhagavan, Tathagata Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of beings to be subdued, teacher of gods and humans, to you, Buddha Bhagavan, glorious conqueror Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, Bhagavan, Tathagata Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of beings to be subdued, teacher of gods and humans, to you, Buddha Bhagavan, glorious conqueror Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, supreme amongst humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then, I prostrate. With pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in 3 worlds, winner of the best, savior, to you I prostrate. With supreme signs, face like a spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. Oh, I think we skipped a page.
I'm sorry, I was scrabbling and I think I missed it. So.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we'll all skip that page. A star, a defective view, a butter lamp flame, an illusion, dewdrop, a water bubble, dream, lightning, a cloud. See all phenomena like this. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the foe of the false, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of sickness, aging, and death. Okay. So now, I think you actually missed 2 pages, but anyway.
Sorry.
Now, this is the taking refuge in generating bodhichitta. So actually, this one stanza, okay, the first 2 lines, I think is going to be the subject of an entire module, okay? And then the second 2 lines is also going to be a subject matter of an entire module later on in the course. So without getting into all that right now, I just wanted to say a little bit about refuge. So yeah, as I said at the beginning, since we want to develop some kind of qualities, then we have to rely on a method that will enable us to do that, right? So here, this concept of refuge, okay, in the worldly sense, it's about to be monsoon here in India, and when it rains, then you don't want to get wet, so you look for something that is going to be able to protect you from getting wet, right? So then you go inside a building, right? And in a worldly sense, we say, oh, I'm taking refuge here in this building, right? So in the same way, right, we don't want to suffer, okay? And so this process of going for refuge is we look for something that is going to be able to, protect us from that which we don't want to experience. And so now, the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, or the Sangha, they're the ones who, have this ability to protect us from the suffering that we don't want to experience. And why is that? Well, basically, the Dharma is the methods by which we can, purify our minds from the causes of suffering, right? And so since the Buddha taught those methods, and the Supreme Assembly or the Sangha or the community of other spiritual aspirants have already integrated those methods and gained some experience, and therefore can lead us along the path to enacting the Dharma in our own mind stream, then they are suitable to be a source of refuge. Okay? All right. And then at the beginning here, it's also important, these next two lines, to think, okay, well, yes, I have these kind of more temporary goals, like I want to further my knowledge, I want to be able to, teach to others, but ultimately, by the merits or by the kind of positive energy that we create through listening to the Dharma, through meditating, through practicing, then eventually we aspire to become a Buddha, so we can benefit all sentient beings, just like the Buddha, Shakyamuni did. Okay, so keeping all that in mind, we then recite this verse. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. Okay. All right, so now we are starting this 14 module Discovering Buddhism course. And the first module is the mind and its potential. And so one thing that I think is very important to know at the beginning is, so why is there such this emphasis on the mind in Buddhism? So here, there's a very famous two stanzas from the Dhammapada. The Dhammapada being sayings of the Buddha, basically. And in the Dhammapada, he says that the mind is the creator of all. The mind is the forerunner, and it precedes all action. If one, with a good intention, speaks or performs another action, then happiness will ensue like a shadow following the body. And then the Buddha continues, saying, the mind is the creator of all. It is the forerunner and comes before all action. If one with a bad intention speaks or performs an action, then suffering will come about, just like a cart follows after an ox. Okay? So, actually, before I go into that stanza, it might be good to just reflect. See, I said at the beginning, and His Holiness says this at the beginning of every teaching of his, this fundamental observation about our condition as living beings, not wanting to suffer and not wanting happiness, right? So I said that we should all kind of investigate this as a hypothesis in our own life. And so as I did that, after, trying everything that society told me would bring me happiness, I, even when I was in my young 20s, I had a very good job. I was earning good money, living in a nice apartment, could basically, didn't have any financial worries. Had, everything that society says is a formula for happiness. But then my mind still had so much anxiety, right? So much stress, so much worry. And, I think all of us, we had, just by the mere fact that we now have come to this course, I think we've all had the experience that our sort of external conditions alone aren't enough to bring the true and lasting happiness that we seek. So, in the Tibetan language, they don't really say that I'm a Buddhist, right? They don't say I'm a Buddhist, but rather they use this word nangpa, right? And nang is inner or inside, and pa, it makes it a person, right? So just like you can have a verb like drive and a driver, so pa is like that. It makes a verb into, a doer, a person, right? So nang pa, in some sense, the etymology then is, that it's an inner being. So then how that's explained is, and that's put into, contradistinction to the Chiropa. The non-Buddhist is the Chiropa, or the outer being, right? And so how this is usually explained is, we can look at society, right? So the outer being, their fundamental means of gaining happiness and well-being is focused on the outside, right? So trying to get more wealth, more comfortable surroundings, more fame, I don't know, right? Fame, money, power, external accomplishment. And that is their main strategy for attaining happiness, right? But the inner being, the Buddhist, their main strategy for trying to gain that mental happiness or the inner happiness is to work on the inside, work on developing the minds. And so, although we say that, it's very important at the beginning because this is one misconception that can come up, right? People somehow think, oh, now I'm a Buddhist, and Buddhism, they talk so much about renunciation. Now I have to give away all my clothes and, I don't know, all my possessions, and go to a Himalayan cave and eat nettles like Milarepa. So it's not like that. So we're not denying the fact that our environment has an effect on our well-being. And of course, given a choice, I would rather have comfortable surroundings, a nice bed, delicious food to eat, and people saying nice things to me rather than insulting and criticizing me all the time. Yes, that's true. But the thing is, though those things are helpful, between the physical and the mental side of things is so much more important, actually. I remember, well, we're sharing a lot about ourselves, huh? But anyway, at one point when I was, still working, yeah, I went through a really horrible breakup, with my girlfriend. And at the time, she broke up with me over the phone, right? And I was traveling for work in Amsterdam, actually, and I was staying at this really nice hotel. It might have been like, I don't know, like 300 euros or like $400 a night hotel. This like nice bed, with the Swedish foam, right? I had whatever I wanted, I could order off for room service, all this stuff, right? But that night I was so distraught. I couldn't sleep, even though I had this like the nicest bed, staying in this fancy hotel, right? You understand? You understand what I mean? So meanwhile, you know, uh, there are these stories of the great yogis, these great practitioners, who, by the way, some of them did go to live in caves in the Himalayas, right? And not even having a mattress, not even having a blanket, then they lived quite content, quite peaceful, and were able to, well, if they did choose to sleep, some of them would just meditate all the time for going to sleep even. But then they had a sense of peace and contentment that was totally independent from, not depending on the external environment, right? And so here now, it's not that those external things don't make a difference, but if we are depending on anything outside of ourself for our happiness and well-being, those things outside the self, right? Well, we actually have very little control, right? And when we combine that with the one of the central Buddhist teachings on impermanence, right? As the Buddha said in the Vinaya teachings, right, that every meeting ends in separation. Everything that's accumulated, right? So all the wealth we collect will eventually run out, and all of the what goes high, those who receive a high position, they eventually will fall, and everyone who is born will eventually die. Okay. So sorry to be so bleak, but this is the reality, So if we are, placing our hopes on, oh, I'm going to accumulate all this wealth and that'll make me happy. Well, everything that we accumulate is going to, dissipate. Oh, I'm going to become, whatever, a president, or I'm going to become number one, whatever, on the ATP tennis tour, right? Well, eventually you're going to fall. And by the way, most of us won't even succeed in reaching number one. And then, if I, get the right partner, then I'll be happy. Yeah? If I find, Mr. or Mrs. Right, yeah. Then, even those meetings, they end in separation, right? So now, what we're trying to do, with developing our mind, is then to develop this kind of well-being that is independent from the external conditions. Okay. So I actually wanted to say that first before going into the Dhammapada quotation. But now here, you'll hear this, the mind is the creator of everything. The mind is the creator of all. You'll hear that many times, especially, Lama Zopa Rinpoche in particular loves to say that and says that quotation a lot. So now, when we talk about the mind being the creator of all, there's two senses that we have to sort of bear in mind. So the first is the one that's explicitly talked about in this quotation from the Dhammapada. And this already is bringing in the concept of a karma, or cause and effect, due to our own actions. And so what makes an action virtuous or non-virtuous is not so much the action itself, but is the motivation with which we undertake the action. So I'll explain. We might normally associate an action like charity, giving away possessions or money to the needy, as being something virtuous. But even a normally virtuous action, it can be done with a non-virtuous motivation. Like, for example, if I were, walking down the street with one of, someone I'm trying to impress, and then I see a beggar, and then I'm like, oh, I'll give some money to the beggar so that this person will think I'm so generous and such a great guy. And then I do the offering. Well, what is my motivation there? My motivation is essentially self-interest, right? So it might look like, something good on the outside, but actually the motivation, we have to check what's going on in our own minds, right? So that's what this stanza from Dhammapada is saying, that if with a good intention, a good thought, then we speak or perform some other action, then the effect of that will be happiness coming in the future, just like the shadow follows the body. And on the other hand, if we do some action with negative motivation, then suffering is going to follow, just like a cart follows after an ox, right? Yeah. So as much as we can, we should always try to keep our mind in virtuous thoughts as much, as much as we can. And so now, how we do that? Well, see, the thing is now our minds are quite uncontrolled, right? And not only that, but even with some slight provocation, if you're like me, some slight provocation can kind of set us off and we get super upset, and that feeling of irritation or anger, can come up quite strongly, and then it remains in the mind for a long time, right? Yeah, I don't know. We ruminate over it again and again. So on the other hand, the virtuous thoughts that come up, it's really, really hard to conjure up like a mind of compassion for others. It takes a lot of effort. And then before we know it, it's already gone. Sorry, is that a common experience with some of you? Anyway, so why that's the case is our mind, or they say we are creatures of habit, which essentially means that our minds are creatures of habit. And so everything that we do, the more we do it, the easier it becomes, right? So now these non-virtuous or afflicted states of mind, like anger and jealousy and attachment, then we actually have been habituated with them from not just this life, but actually in Buddhism, there's the thought of beginningless mind, right? So we just have, since time without beginning, constantly been habituating ourselves with these negative emotions. And therefore, we have strong habits for them. And therefore, they're very easy to arise. They arise very powerfully. And these other positive emotions, we don't have much familiarization with them. And so they're a lot more difficult to conjure up in the mind. So essentially, what our practice is going to be entailing is we're going to learn the techniques whereby we can get control of our minds, get control of our disturbing emotions first, so that they arise less frequently, they arise less powerfully, and eventually we'll be able to abandon them, get rid of them altogether. And meanwhile, we're going to learn about the techniques to cultivate and bring up the virtuous states of mind. And as we do that, they'll arise more frequently, more strongly, and eventually, when we achieve enlightenment, then they will always be there in their fully developed state. So I just looked at my watch and we're almost out of time. So I didn't say everything I wanted to say, but more important than what I was going to say is I want to give you some basic meditation instructions. So some of you said that you've been kind of meditating on and off, but now you want to start a daily meditation practice. Yes? So that's actually going to start today. Okay. Some of you were like, oh yeah, and then by the end of this course, I want to have a daily meditation practice. No, starting today, right now, you're going to have a daily meditation practice from day one. Okay. So, but no problem. Okay. No problem. Yeah. So how we do this, okay, with any habit that we're trying to start, then we start slowly, okay? We do something very, very, very easy, okay? So, but we do something every day consistently, okay? So anyway, let us do, okay? Learning by doing. I'm gonna kind of stop talking. But we'll get into the specifics of how to sit in a proper meditation posture next week. But just for now, try to sit comfortably. And most important thing is just to keep a straight back. So if you're on a couch or a chair, it's good that you're not sort of leaning back on the backrest, but at least kind of sit up so you're supporting yourself, your own weight. Yeah, so just you can move back from the back of the chair, okay? And later, if you can sit cross-legged, that's good. Oh, we have 35 minutes. Oh, man, you see, India is 12 and a half hours different from Pacific Coast time. So then, it's 8:27 now. And then I was thinking, oh, I have to finish by 8:30. But so like, oh man. Okay, anyway, we're starting the meditation. So why don't we do this? We can do meditation, okay? And I can give a little bit better instructions about it. And then we can open it up for questions, because I also wanted to do that, okay? All right. Okay. So anyway, get into a comfortable meditation position. So just for now, keep it a straight back. And then what I want us to do at the beginning is just to connect with our bodies. So you can ask yourself then, yes, we're all seated now, but how do you know that you're now seated? Okay. So in other words, where do you feel that sense that you're now seated, as opposed to standing or walking or even laying down? So now many of you might feel that pressure on your seat. your butt pressing into your seat, or if you're sitting cross-legged on the ground, the legs pressing into the cushion. So just focus on those sensations. All right, and now we'll do a similar thing. And now all of us are breathing. So now I want you to ask yourself, how do you know that you're breathing? So in other words, where are the sensations associated with your breath? Where are they manifesting within your body? So for some of us, we might feel it in the rising and falling of the abdomen. Some might feel the chest expanding and contracting. Some of you might even feel the sensation of the air as it passes over the skin in the upper lip and nostril area. So wherever it is most clearly appearing to you now, then again, just hold your mind and observe. And then try to keep your mind focused on those sensations. If as you try to do that, then there's other appearances that come to your mind, be they external, like different sounds, or internal, like different thoughts, then try not to engage with them, but rather just maintain your focus on the breath. And then if you're completely new, or you consider yourself a beginner, you can also count your exhalations. So inhale, exhale, count 1, inhale, exhale, count 2, and so forth. When you reach 10, then start over again at 1. And then if before you reach 10, your mind happens to get distracted and you lose your breath, you lose your count, then just start over again at 1. And we'll do this for just another 5 minutes. Okay, so now gently come out of the meditation and bring your awareness back to the room. All right. So did all of you understand those meditation instructions? Yes? Okay. Right. So what I wanted to say, and then I thought I didn't have time to say it, but now I do have the time to say it, so I will say it, is that, in Buddhism, we emphasize the mind because the mind is actually the lens through which we experience the world, as well as this, we're talking about these two senses that the mind is the creator, right? So the first sense that the mind is the creator is dealing with this concept of karma, cause and effect. And so with our mind being motivated by good thoughts, then we perform good actions. Those result in happiness. And then on the flip side, the mind motivated by negative thoughts, performing negative actions, then causes suffering. But even forgetting about this concept of karma, then even now, how our mind interprets and labels, for lack of a better word, the world, right? That itself, creates our reality, creates our experience. So one of the concepts we're going to get into later is this thought that nothing actually has intrinsic inherent existence, right? But all is merely labeled by the mind, okay? So that is another module altogether. But just for now, you see, we all know the saying that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? So that there's not some sort of intrinsic beauty out there, but depending on who's viewing it, then people can view things as beautiful or ugly, right? But they don't have an intrinsic beauty in and of themselves, right? So similarly, with our experiences, something that we, okay, I'll give an example. Before the monsoon, sorry, I'm talking about India a lot, but before the monsoon in India, I'm in South India and it gets super hot. It's really, really hot, okay? So sometimes, even now, it's 8:30 a.m. and actually I'm sweating. I'm sweating right now quite a lot. And, or maybe it's because I'm nervous talking to such a big group. But anyway, so I have this sweat, and while I was meditating, like beads of sweat are running down my chest, and I'm like, oh man, Okay, so it's uncomfortable. I don't like this feeling. Oh man, I should have turned on the fan before I started the talk. All these thoughts running through the head, right? Okay, but someone else, okay, they went to a sauna, okay? They paid money, okay, to be in a hot room. Then when they start to sweat, they're like, oh yes, oh, I love this. And they'll turn it up more. They'll put the water on the little coals to make it more hot, They're actively trying to do it, right? So it all depends on the mind, right? The experience, the kind of physical condition of being hot and sweaty, same. But depending on how you're thinking about it, then one person, thinks it's great, and another person thinks it's hell, right? So that's one kind of small, silly example. But later, we'll get into when we start to talk about the Lojong teachings, the thought transformation teachings, where there's this whole body of techniques where they say transforming suffering conditions into the path, right? So even normally we say, yeah, we don't want suffering, right? Oh, I just want happiness and peace. And that's why I'm going to meditate, so I can be free of suffering. Well, actually, some advanced, bodhisattva practitioners, then even these opportunities for suffering, if they keep in mind, for example, that they're suffering on behalf of others, for the benefit of others, then they will gladly accept and even seek out these kinds of opportunities to suffer for others. You see what I mean? So even suffering can be seen in a different light depending on how we train and develop our minds. Okay. So those are the two senses that the mind is the creator. And so now we're saying that's why we need to develop and subdue our mind. And now the primary sort of technology with which we do that is our meditation practice. Okay. Yes, we come in and listen to lectures, or we might read books, and we're introduced to some very wonderful ideas and concepts. But to really get the deep internal transformation that's going to bring about the lasting happiness and well-being, we need to integrate what we've learned in these lectures and let it sink in to the mind, and thereby transform the mind at the very deepest levels. And that is what meditation practice is going to do. Normally they talk about three levels of wisdom. There's a wisdom that arises from hearing the teachings, then a wisdom arising from contemplation, and then a wisdom arising from meditation. So we've all, in listening to this lecture, I hope you've learned a few things. And so, yeah, you might get a little aha moment. Oh, yeah, that's true. But then over the next week, we also just can't leave it at the fact that, okay, I listened to some lecture, and okay, see you next week. But actually, we should be contemplating and thinking about what we learned and what we talked about in the lecture. And then you sort of get your own internal aha moments. And as I said in the open house, I like to tell stories. And then the point is that you come up with your own stories. So I told the story of, the bad breakup, and I couldn't go to sleep even though I was in a great bed, right? So what was this story trying to illustrate? The fact that the external conditions alone aren't sufficient to bring about the lasting happiness. And actually the mind is more important. So now all of you should be thinking in the next week, oh, what kind of situations have I had in my life where I experienced that vividly? Have you? So that's what you think about. And then when you get that, oh yes, yeah, that's really true. Oh, that's really true. Okay, you have a kind of seed of realization. And then, of course, later we're going to talk about how to do analytic meditation. But later, you would then try to actively cultivate that mini realization in the context of a meditation practice, and just to let your mind totally sink into it, so that the realization becomes strong and stable. Because, as it is now, even though we have that realization, or the mini realization that our external conditions aren't sufficient for happiness, when I get all hot and sweaty, I'm immediately thinking, oh, I should have turned on the fan. How stupid am I? Oh, didn't I know, right? So it's still quite not really integrated into our being, right? And that's why we need meditation. Okay, so anyway, that's what I wanted to say. And so then I was going to say, that's why I want us to start meditation from today. And so we've learned the technique. I just wanted to say a few other things, and then we can open it for some questions. And this is, I wanted to talk about how then we start to build a daily meditation practice. Okay. So the first thing is we start small. Okay. So we did a 5-minute meditation today. That's great. Now, the point is, I want you all to commit to doing a daily meditation. And you can choose what that means. If you can do 5 minutes, great. If you can do 15 minutes, great. If you can do an hour, great, right? So it's up to you, but choose and then commit to it. So it's better to just then choose something very modest. Choose, I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes a day, right? Or if you can't do that, 1 minute a day, right? Or I'm going to, count 10 of my breaths. Something very easy. So you have what they call, these wins, right? You create you set up your meditation practice for success, right? So if you have very modest goals, you'll hit those goals, and then that will bring some confidence, right? You'll have the oh yes, I've been meditating now for a week, and then your friend asks you, oh, how long do you meditate? You say, oh, 1 minute, but that's okay, because now you're a meditator, right? You're a daily meditator. So most of your friends won't even ask you how long you're meditating for, so don't worry. Okay. Anyway, I'm joking. We don't do it to gain fame, right? So that's one thing. Then the next is also, some of you in the introductions were saying, oh, I've been meditating and it's brought, such great peace. Oh, it helps me with my stressful life. Okay, so the next tip is drop all those expectations. Okay. So yes, maybe some years from now, you can look back and say, oh yeah, my meditation has brought me a lot of peace. But for now, especially at the beginning when you're trying to acquire a new skill, it's not going to be pretty, right? Think about, learning a musical instrument. The first time you try to play those scales, it doesn't sound nice, right? But through a long period of sustained practice, then, you can then play without looking at the keys or whatever, right? So don't think, especially this week, this month, this year, that your meditation session is going to be all bliss and rainbows, right? Try to drop all those expectations and try to not judge your meditation sessions. Oh, this is a good session, this is a bad session. For now, we're just trying to between quality and quantity, we're trying to build up quantity first. Okay. Then with anything in the bell curve, right? So there'll be a natural distribution, right? And so those outliers, those blissful, sessions, yeah, those will come, maybe 1 in 100. So how do we get those? We have to meditate hundreds of times. Then those will come. All right? All right. And then lastly, yeah, although we said we're going to meditate every day, it is also very good to have a more specific plan than that. Okay. So I don't know how many of you have like a daily schedule quite well laid out, but schedule in your time for meditation. For many of us, I think it's good to meditate first thing in the morning, before you check your phone, before you eat breakfast or have your morning coffee, right? Just get up, instead of hitting the snooze button, because the snooze button is 10 minutes anyway, then just sit up. And even if you're really tired, just sit up and breathe and try to focus on your breath. So easy. Okay? And then you already have your little victory for the day. The rest of the day, you're like, oh, I've done my meditation practice. Okay. So anyway, let's try like that. Those are three small tips about building a daily meditation practice. And so, that starts today. Okay, so I think I want to open it up for questions, and then we can, yeah, you see.
Anya had a question earlier. You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, you talked about the intentions behind things, and that's where the energy comes from. And I was wondering about, this might be kind of semantics, but I was wondering about doing something for other people because it makes you happy. Like, I don't know where the line is is that a selfish thing that, like, say I volunteer at a soup kitchen, it makes me happy to know that people are receiving food when they otherwise wouldn't have had it. But it's also because it makes me happy, So I was wondering your thoughts on that.
Yeah, right. No. So this is a very good question, a question that comes up a lot. And so, His Holiness Dalai Lama often says, if you want to be happy, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. Understand? Okay. So, and he also says, if you want to be selfish, be smart selfish. Right? So actually, the smart selfish is to do things that benefit others. Because, well, I mean, let's put it this way. There's a very famous saying by the great Indian master Shantideva, where he says, there's no need for a lot of words, right? The childish beings work only for their own benefit, while the Buddhas work only for the benefit of others. And look at the difference between the two. Okay, so in other words, somewhat paradoxically, right? Childish beings like ourselves, we're always focused on ourselves. Oh, when am I going to be happy? What's in it for me, right? And we've been operating under that sort of paradigm from beginningless time. And what has that gotten us? We haven't gotten the happiness that we've been seeking. But the Buddhas, who have totally erased this self-cherishing. And self-cherishing here means the thought that we are more important than others. Okay, it's not just that we then don't take care of ourselves at all, right? But this thought that, sentient beings, other living beings are infinite in number. I'm only one, yet I'm more important than everyone else. So the Buddhas, having gotten rid of that thought, and then totally focusing on being of benefit and trying to benefit others, then they're the ones who actually attain their highest benefit for themselves. Okay, so the mere fact, there can be two things, and it's important to note too, at our level as relative beginners, it's very hard to have 100% pure motivation, right? It's going to be mixed. But as long as you have this thought, I want to help others, and the sense of just having done something of benefit to others, and then us deriving some kind of happiness or satisfaction with that, that's totally fine, and that's actually good. We should be we call this practice rejoicing. We rejoice in the good actions that we do, right? But if we, find ourselves going to the soup kitchen, and actually we're deriving more pleasure because the people that we serve, they're, so nice to us, they thank us so much, So let's say there's one person, oh, thank you, Anya. Oh, you're such a great person, you know? And then the next person doesn't even say thank you. And you see your mind like, what the heck, how ungrateful. Then you know something's a little bit off, right? So anyway, it doesn't, yeah, I hope that answered your question.
So I just wanted to have some clarification when you said, getting control of the anger, we're creatures of habit, and then virtuous motivation takes over. How is that virtuous motivate, or how is virtue creating new habits? How do we do that then? By compassion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So these are kind of two separate things. One is getting control of our negative emotions, our afflictive emotions, and the other is trying to increase our positive ones. So later, we will get into the explicit techniques about how to generate compassion within our minds, and then we'll do the meditation on compassion. And then the more we do that, then our habit of being a compassionate person will strengthen. And then in other contexts, we'll be working with anger or other afflictions and learning, how to first, actually, when they arise, not to allow them to increase, but then to allow them to dissipate, right? So that's the first kind of thing. And then gradually, we'll work on methods whereby they won't arise in the first place. Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make it clear?
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
All right.
Yeah, I have
yeah.
a question. So happiness, you said that everybody is seeking for happiness and seeks to avoid suffering. And now the actual things that people seek are very diverse, and there are many levels of, even within Buddhism, there are levels of suffering, and some people even think that by causing suffering to themselves, they will somehow get happiness. So my question is there some definition of what it means of what happiness and suffering means in this context? Because it seems that in practice, people are seeking different things. So is it possible to define the happiness and suffering that everybody seeks?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I try to kind of keep things a little bit nebulous, undefined, at the beginning, because we're going to go into that in quite some detail later. But, even this observation that you have, yeah, it's true. People have different, ways that they define their own kind of happiness and well-being. But in general, yeah, people are wanting a sort of lasting happiness, right? More than just a short-term happiness, right? Although, so yeah, I mean, it's like this, right? So even the student who goes out partying all weekend and the student that stays home and studies, right? They're both seeking happiness. One is thinking on a very short term, like, oh, I go out party, dancing, drinking, oh, that's a lot of fun, right? The other student, the diligent one, then is thinking, oh, more on the long-term basis, okay? So for now, the observation I was making is just that both of them, that's fine that they have their kind of short-term or long-term view. What we are going to eventually, study and learn more about, there is this saying within Buddhism that only nirvana is peace. Okay, so nirvana, which I think many of you heard the word at least, but it's the state of liberation beyond all suffering. And that comes with the total abandonment of all the afflictive emotions, right? So that means at a certain point in our practice, it will be impossible for us to become angry or jealous or, have attachment or craving, So only when we reach that state that is completely free of all these negative states of mind will we have a lasting freedom from suffering. Okay. Now, that state, one is a very, very experienced practitioner at that point. And unfortunately, yeah, probably many of us won't reach that state in this lifetime. Okay. But nonetheless, as we progress along the path, especially in Buddhism, we have this sense of the mind continuing from life to life. The progress we make in that vein along that path, it doesn't go to waste. And then, in the next life or some future life, we'll be able to continue along our path to liberation. So, hope that helps.
Okay.
Looks like we've reached the end of our time. Thank you so much for this session.
Okay, terrific.
Do you want?
Oh yeah, we should just dedicate, and I can just say something. So just at the beginning of the session, we tried to set a good motivation and thought that we're here on this occasion so that we can learn about the various methods to bring lasting peace and happiness and freedom from suffering for ourselves and others, right? So now we dedicate the merit or the positive energy that we've created in our time here today, that, in accordance with our motivation. So we can think, due to this merit, then may all the living beings quickly be freed from all their suffering and attain the state of lasting peace and happiness as quickly as possible. Okay, we'll keep it simple like that for now. And thank you very much. Please do your homework. I'm going to ask you about it next week. So this is one homework your dog can't eat, okay? So you don't have that excuse for you. So anyway, thank you very much. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good day.